To just, are you shaking or something?
No, it's recording now.
Okay, just leave it recording.
Okay, folks, we're gonna have a little fireside chat with Micah, the Queen of Customs. She was given that name by George Barris a few years ago. Okay, tell me about some sports that you participated in, Micah.
Well, first I want to thank you for having me on your show today, Jimmy, and I appreciate your audience. And I want to encourage the audience that this is kind of a vague attempt at humor, and I could actually just be an out-of-work comedian. Now, the purpose of our new show, Fireside Chats with Micah, is to get to know me better. And I'll leave it up to the audience to figure out whether or not my stories are true. So, with that being said, what was your first question?
Tell me about your pogo stick when you was participating in sports.
Oh, my pogo stick. Okay, well, this story goes back a long ways. I brought it up the other day with Jimmy. I can't remember what show we were watching, but it jogged my memory. I have so many stories to tell, I forget them. But in high school, most people don't know that I was actually a great athlete, and I lettered in pogo.
Tell me a little bit about your pogo stick.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually had a couple versions, and the one that my most favorite version, it was a real beauty. It had a carbon fiber shaft. It had a titanium germanium alloy spring. It had unobtainium, boy, that's hard to say, unobtainium retainer clips on the spring. It also it had rhinestones on the grips, and it even had some tassels come down. It was beautiful. But while I'm talking about the different components of the pogo stick, I have to share with you why I went with unobtainium retainers. I had a spring break one time, and it was determined that it was my retainer. I can elaborate on that, of course, but
Where did you get these exotic metals from?
well, I mean, let me back up. And the accident that I kind of referred to, it's painful to even think about it. You know, competitive pogo sticking is dangerous. It's not for just anybody, and we lost a lot of good men that year. But anyway, back to my accident and my retaining clips. What happened, I was in a fierce competition, and with only about 100 meters left in my race, and I had a spring come unbound, and it practically sent me in the next county. I ended up in a ditch somewhere out of town. I laid there for a day, apparently. I was completely knocked out, and then finally the local sheriff found me the next day. So we did a lot of research, and it turned out that these retaining clips on my titanium germanium alloy springs had broken, and I had to come up with a way to hold that titanium germanium spring in a little bit better, because frankly the competition was really ratcheting up, and I wanted to go the extra mile, no pun intended. So anyway, I'm not really supposed to talk about this, so if you can't keep a secret, but I had a contact in NASA, and he was telling me about a rare element that they called unobtainium that they were working with, and they were making a few parts for the space shuttle and the International Space Station out of unobtainium. And great risk to him. He actually was able to smuggle out enough unobtainium that I made these retaining clips. And so they were machined at our local machine shop, and got me back on the road, in a manner of speaking.
Was the sport dangerous?
Well, I think we already covered that, Jimmy. I told you about this the retaining clip that broke. I told you, well, unfortunately, we lost a lot of good people that year. And I really don't want to talk about that part anymore.
Okay, it sounds pretty dangerous to
It
me.
was very dangerous.
What's the furthest you ever rode the pogo stick?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We throughout my career in pogo sticking, of course, I started out as a freshman, and we traveled, regional competitions, district competitions, and anyway, I got to my senior year, and we made it all the way to state, and we had to go up to the state competition on the short yellow bus, and because frankly, there was hardly any people on the team. Something about an embarrassment or whatever. Anyway, in the short yellow bus. I liked that bus. It was the one that I rode to school most frequently in. Anyway, the driver was pushing it hard. We had a couple hundred miles left to go to get to the competition on time. It broke down and left us stranded on the side of the road. And I felt like this was going to be the highlight of my senior year, so I grabbed my pogo stick, the one that was the carbon fiber shaft and the titanium duranium alloy spring with the unobtainium retaining clips, and I jumped on my pogo stick and I bounced myself all the way that last 200 miles to the state competition. Don't laugh, this is true. I bounced 200 miles to the state competition, which was held every year at Jefferson City. Went all the way to the Capitol, bounced right in like a kangaroo. And got there. I was a little tired, to be honest with you, and but I did, go ahead and compete. And as it turned out, I took second place, and I really feel like I would have been first place state champion had the bus not broke down.
Was there any embarrassing moments with this pogo stick?
Well, you had to ask, didn't you? Other than just being kind of the laughing stock of the school, because who rides a pogo stick? I'd have to say that, I don't know if I can share this on camera, but one time my bra broke and my boob jumped up and gave me a black eye. And fortunately, this was like the cross-country portion of the pogo race, and so, there wasn't a lot of people around to laugh at me, but it was quite embarrassing, and I ended up I happened to carry a roll of duct tape in my back pocket, and so I wrapped myself up real good and brought it on in on the home stretch. That time I took third place, but that was probably my most embarrassing moment.
Folks, this is one of the stories that I got to listen to when we was out in the desert hiking around the country. While we're at it, what's the story behind this pink flamingo?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, Jimmy. I like to dabble in metal art, and so I made this flamingo. I made two of them, and I made this flamingo about 7 years ago, and the legs are made of 3/4 round tubing. I did a slight radius on it with our tubing roller that is a Swag off-road roller. I love the company. They make great products. This is 1-inch tubing. There is I did a combination of a roll and then a mandrel bend with our tubing bender. And then these, the little sunglasses, just some 1/8-inch round stock. I used some knockouts out of an electrical box. And the tongue is a piece of 1/2-inch flat stock. It's just kind of a whimsical little character, and it makes me smile when I look at it. I guess that's why I built it. And I put a LED puck light in the body of it, and at night it's a really great accent lamp. We've had this burning practically non-stop for 8 years, and it's still going. So the little flippers, it's kind of dirty down there, but I cut out the shape, and then I put some small beads in it with the bead roller to kind of give it some contours. So this was a great project, real fun.
Well, there you have it, folks. Straight from the mouth of the Queen of Customs, Micah Wolfe-Parsons.